So, your manager invited another project manager to your meetings, and the information that they're providing is not relevant to the meeting agenda and or the project. So, my question to you is, what are you going to do about this interruption from this project manager that your manager invited? Hey, if you're new to the channel, I go by the name of ED. For you smart and intelligent folks out there, listen, that just simply means Ed. I have an 8-point framework, and those 8 points I plan to unpack today's title, which is entitled Revolutionize Your Meetings. How to tactfully, and I do mean tactfully, tell a project manager, man, hold your thoughts. Okay, it didn't go, it doesn't sound like that. Okay. It just basically says how to tactfully tell a project manager to hold their thoughts. Family, this is episode 200. 200, can you believe that, family? 200 of long form episodes. Of course, definitely put out a lot of shorts for you just in case if you want those nuggets. But 200, can you believe this? All right, I'm sorry, fam. I'm so excited and happy. And thank you for everyone that's subscribed, that's hit that like button, that's really been interactive with me and asking questions. I truly appreciate it. I hope I'm getting back to you at a timely fashion that is appropriate to help you on your career journey. But anyway, I digress. All right, so anyway, um, let me give you a couple quotes. Telling someone they've overstepped with tact and kindness is not about diminishing their enthusiasm, but about guiding it in the right direction. Oh, I like that. Okay, you don't like that one? How about this one? The power of tactful word lies in not just saying what is said, but it is what is gracefully left unsaid, allowing someone to reconsider their steps without losing face. Point number one, family, this is what you're going to have to do. We're going to have to attack this. And the only reason why I can speak from experience. And this will happen, I don't care what level. If you're just starting out today as a project manager, or you've been in this a decade or 20 years or 5 years, it doesn't matter where you started, where you're at in this journey of this thing that I love, that I hope you fall in love with, called project management, because we have to remember to do this, especially my project managers that have been in the game for a while. They'll sometimes get comfortable, and we have to bring it back in and make sure that we stick to what got us to where we're at. So here we go. Point number one: establish clear meeting agendas with rules with the team. Listen, this is what I normally do, and I gotta get back to it again. But because sometimes when you've been working with a team, it's kind of already established. But the caveat here is what today's episode is entitled about. A manager said, "Hey, project manager, go work with ED, because I think he'll be able to, you can mirror and see kind of how projects are being done, and that way you can go and do it. And of course, you can do it your way. But hey, since you're new to the organization, or maybe even if they've been in the organization for a while, it doesn't matter. They're in the meeting with you, and the manager has is the one that sent them. So the question is, how do you address this? First of all, one of the first things that I should have done and should be doing is ensuring that from a team perspective with my stakeholders, we have rules in place. What does those rules look like? The rules basically says anytime we're going to meet, we will have an agenda. Anytime we meet, within that agenda, for each topic that we're going to have, there's going to be a specific speaker. So if I'm speaking through all those points, my name will be next to those topic points. Also, what we will do is we will establish what is the decorum, no, I'm just playing, but what is the rule set for if someone is going to overtalk us, or if you're trying to explain something. So you're doing this upfront work. So all we need to do is go back to these rules and say, hey, this is what we agreed on. And that's the key point, family. What did we agree on collectively as a team? Not something that ED came up with, not something that Ron came up with, or Bobby, or John. What did we come up collectively with as a team? And this is what we're going to stand on. This is our values. For us, anytime we have a meeting, our values are around, we're going to have an agenda. We're going to have topics within that agenda that basically outline what we're going to discuss. We're going to have speakers aligned to that particular topic that's actually being discussed, because this is going to be important. And if you really want to take it to the next level, you put the time associated with it. So here's an example. Let's say we start off the meeting. I have, okay, risk. I'm going to talk about risk for 5 minutes. The caveat is if I need more time than that, we'll have to save it to the end of the meeting because I didn't. And again, you have to work with the team to understand what the timing is looking like. Are we having a 30-minute or a 60-minute meeting or even longer than that? But let's say this for this example was 5 minutes. So I'm going to look at the risk. If I don't have any risk, we're going to keep it at a high level just to ask, hey, any new risk out there that you're seeing, team? Anything that we need to look at from what's already in our risk register? Okay, nope. Next thing, let's look at our schedule. How is our schedule looking, team? Is there anything? And you're putting in a time allotted on this because now when you have a time allotted on this, it really forces the speaker, the person that is speaking, to be very concise. They have to leave all the fluff words out at the door because it's not going to be relevant because they need to get to the point fast. And this really puts a lot of pressure on on that speaker, which is good for the audience because at the end of the day, we get the information that is required and we're able to move on. So keep that in mind. And again, family, I really want to again thank you guys for subscribing. For those who subscribe, for those who haven't, please hit that subscribe button. But for those who have, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. 200 episodes. This will make 200 episodes. Hit that like button. And again, if you haven't picked up, I'm going to come over here. I'm going to get out the shot real quick. If you haven't picked up this book right here, The Magnetic Project Manager, I don't know what you're waiting for. It's an excellent read. Please pick it up. Support us here at the channel. That really means a lot. All right, let's move on to point number two. Point number two, this is my favorite message. Utilize a parking lot strategy. Ooh, I love this. Reason why I love this, see, and I learned this from a friend of mine. He was actually facilitating. It was a huge facilitation he was doing there. And I was just there watching. I was watching him, and it ended up turning that I was actually ended up supporting him. But originally, I was just there just to show support, and I wanted to see kind of how he conducts things. Because see, that's one thing which I don't know why project manager don't do more of it, but really to go to other people, other project managers meeting, but be silent. That's what got us here today about this, because this actually happened to me of where I had a project manager that a leader wanted to come in and they just went on a tirade of talking and talking. And afterwards, my team, pulled me aside and was like, hey, can we not invite that person back? And they don't know the backstory. I don't know the backstory. So that's why I thought today would be very important that we talk about how we address this. But anyway, I learned this strategy from the guy who was basically a parking lot. So what he would do is we would be in a big meeting room. He would have a whiteboard, either like one of those flip pad whiteboards or anything that just sits on the stand. Normally it's a King. I think it's King is the product. And he wrote up there parking lot. Before he started the meeting, he said, hey, I want to make sure I want you guys to understand, you guys have already submitted your agenda of the things you wanted to talk about, the topics. I have these lined up, as well as I have a thing here called parking lot. Parking lot basically means if it's not in these topics of what we're going to address, what I will do or you can do is write down the topic that you want to talk about. And if there's time allotted at the end of what we need to cover here, then you more or less we'll start at the first one and work our way down. If we do not get to everything because of the time allotted here, we'll save those and we'll have it for our next upcoming meeting, depending on if this is a major or minor thing. See, when he said those two right there, that's what got me, because sometimes I love what Jim Rohn talk about, because it took me back to Jim Rohn. Sometimes we major in minor things, meaning that things that we know is just busy work, things that we know is not going to move, watch this, the ball further, or us further, or the team further, or the project further. So family, what we have to ensure and watch out for is not majoring in minor things. So that whole parking lot thing, I feel like is effective. If you work virtual, you can do the same thing. You can actually, if you use Teams, Zoom, whatever, each of them have a whiteboard. You can just put that on the side, or you could take notes, and then you could talk about it at the end and say, hey, these are the topics that we didn't cover. They were in our parking lot, and I want to make sure that everyone is aware that we'll talk about it in the next meeting if it's not a major thing. If it's a major thing, then maybe we need to extend this meeting to talk about it, but you have to be careful there as well. All right, let's move on to point number 3. Directly address the issue privately. Listen, family, my first steps is, if you haven't seen, if you go watch some other videos, is when I have an issue with somebody, my first initial step is to talk to them privately. Privately is giving them a call and say, hey, can we chat about some things? And I want to talk about, when we were in this meeting, um, our team, and I know you weren't, maybe you weren't aware of it, maybe you didn't get the memo. I don't know what it is, and so I don't want to assume anything. I want to talk to you first about what our structure is in our meeting. And our structure in our meeting, we have an agenda and we have topics. If anything is outside of that, then we will have a later discussion about it. If it's a major thing, we'll have the discussion then. But again, we want to keep it very concise because the team is extremely busy, and I know you can understand that, right? And so, as you can see, family, I'm creating the narrative to help them understand is that, hey, I would love to talk about things that are personal. I would love to talk about other things that are not part of this agenda or part of this topic. But what I don't want to happen is that we miss out on an opportunity to really nail down some things that we've been working on. So having that private conversation with the person and expressing your feedback, this is the key word. I know people mess this up. You have to be constructive, and you have to choose your words, Riley, because when you come off, this person is already going to feel under attack. They're already going to go into defensive mode, and you just want to be clear. That's why when you heard me say, "Hey, you may not be aware," we put together what our rules are. We put together how we're going to talk in each meeting, and if something is outside of that, we will be adaptable to it. But it has to make sense to the team collectively, and we may do a vote on it to say, "Hey, guys, is this something we need to stay further on?" But we just don't come in and we talk. Are you okay with that? Now, let's say the project manager that you just had this conversation with say, yeah, I'm definitely fine with it. I apologize. I didn't know. No, hey, no worries. Now, you want to keep your eye on that situation because you want to see what transpires later, but you always want to have that private conversation first to give that person, I don't care if they're a stakeholder, um, you want to pull them aside privately and have that first. That is a way of showing respect and say, hey, I respect you enough, even though I may not even know you. Because see, with me, you lose respect. You first of all, you get the respect up front, but you lose it by when we have the conversation. I'm saying, hey, you're being disrespectful, and you intentionally just continue to do it. So we have to address that. Since we addressed it privately and it didn't work, now publicly we're gonna address that. But anyway, point number 4, we have a feedback loop. What that means is basically we have regular feedback of how effective is the meeting, and what does the team think. You see, all I keep talking about is the team. I'm not saying I, the project manager, I'm saying we and the team, and no me or I, because it's important that you don't want to have a meeting just to meet. Because sometimes we have meetings just to meet, to check a checkbox, and there's no value in that actual meeting. And because there's no value, then people are just showing up and they're not contributing the way that they could or and should contribute. So we want to ensure that we have a open feedback. Make sure you're accessible to say, hey, is there any feedback you guys want to have? Anything do you want to switch this up? Do you think bi-weekly or 3 times a week is too much? You want to just do one big meeting in one time? And then, so we have to always be adaptable in that situation. Point number 5, encourage, question, lead discussion. What I would recommend on this, family, is the ability to prepare key questions in advance, to ensure that you're steering the discussion in a right way. So you should already have the agenda already in play. You've worked with the team and say, hey, is there things you want to talk about? They send in the things they want to talk about. Now you published the agenda. Now what you want to ensure is, and here's a key tip, and I wasn't even going to talk about this. This is one of the things that I've done that I really truly believe is effective, because what what normally happens is somebody gets in a meeting, and sometimes I'll forget, family, is that you'll put the agenda in the meeting invite, and people get in a meeting and be like, okay, what we're here to talk about. Okay, all right. I guess they didn't get the meet. They didn't look. They just accepted it. And all right, okay. This is what we're here to talk about. We're going to cover these points. But what I normally do, family, and what I've seen other stakeholders when they're actually leading a meeting, and I'm just there. as someone to ensure that the meeting is still moving forward is that sending out the agenda probably 15 or even 10 minutes before the actual meeting. And then when you get on the meeting, when you start the meeting, before anyone, once you give them the grace to get there, now you go over, hey, these are the points we're going to talk about. Anything outside of this goes to where? The parking lot, and then we'll address that accordingly. All right, let's move on to point number 6. Schedule a dedicated deep dive session. What does that look like? Some topics require more of an extensive discussion that can't be accommodated in a regular meeting. So that's why I said, remember when I said the major and minors, being able to understand, like, okay, is this a major thing that we really need to discuss? Do we need to have a deeper dive? Absolutely. Okay, let me set up a meeting for a deeper dive on this particular item, and we need to set up what are the outcomes we're looking to get out of that. Because what I don't want to happen is saying, yeah, we need to have a deeper dive, and we show up and we're not prepared, or we're there and everybody is just waiting for somebody to speak up and lead some. So we need to understand what are the outcomes, and let's document what those outcomes are. And I would recommend, and this is just my recommendation, allow one of your stakeholders to lead that deep dive session. You be there to support, because they're probably going to have more of the expertise in whatever the functionality that they're discussing, more than you as the project manager, because that's why the stakeholders are normally there because they're the subject matter expert a lot of times. All right, let's move on to point number 7. This is probably going to ruffle some project managers' feelings, but it is what it is. Adapt a more, or I should say a less or more approach to actual meetings. What does that mean? Again, remember what I shared with you before. There's people, not probably your organization or any organization that you know, but they just love to meet, and love to meet without a outcome, love to meet without a purpose. They just want to just, talk and have conversation. And listen, I'm a talker. I love to engage in conversation. But when I'm in those meetings, I want to get through everything we need to get through, because I don't know what the rest of the stakeholders have on their plate. This is not the only project that they're working on. So because they prioritize me, I want to make sure I prioritize them with their time, because time is something you can't get back. So there may be certain situations where I may not have a meeting and just talk to somebody one on one to get that information, and then I'll set up a bigger meeting to disseminate it all out to everyone after I get everyone's feedback or whatever I was looking for. Because what again, like I said, sometimes people just look to meet just to meet. So this is very effective. What I will say though, here's another key thing that I wasn't even thinking. This must be, I guess, because it's episode 200. I'm just feeling like dropping all type of gems. One of the things I learned along in my journey is as a project manager, and you're watching the correspondence going back and forth between stakeholders via email. Right there, you want to jump in and stop that. Now somebody says, why would you want to do that? You want to stop it because it's harder to, well, and this is my opinion, right or wrong, this is what I'm thinking at the time, and I've stood on it forever. When I see when I say multiple, more than 2 to 4 emails going back and forth, we need to have a meeting. Because if we don't have a meeting, this is going to go on for longer. And one time I sat there and watched it. I watched about 10 emails come back and forth, so a total of 20 between each other. And I'm sitting there like, man, all they had to do was get on a call. They probably would have knocked this out in 30 minutes or less, got an understanding, got some takeaways, and boom. But this is what we're here for as project managers. We see that. And so because we see that, we know if we get on a call, we might be able to knock it out in 15 or 10 minutes, and boom, get a readout, send it out to the people that were involved, and move forward. So again, family, when you're seeing these correspondence going back and forth via email, and you just have to gauge to see what makes sense. All right, let's move on to point number 8. Set specific objectives for each meeting participant. Like I said before, family, having topics and people assigned as roles. So for instance, you have a assigned role, who's taking notes, or they call it a scribe, who's basically scribing for us today, who's taking the notes to send out the meeting recap, who's the timekeeper. A lot of times that's going to fall on you unless you have a project coordinator. So when I had my project coordinator, he would take a lot of the notes. I would be responsible for. He would take the notes, and he was the timekeeper. But I was ensuring that we were driving. I was driving the conversation. I was responsible for supporting the stakeholders from if they needed to have one-on-ones with me, and of course he would be coming along. But I was responsible for setting those up to see if there's anything that they didn't feel comfortable sharing on the call that we need to connect to figure out what's going on. So setting these rules up, and this is where I say you really want to do this when you're setting up the rules, or I should say the engagement for when you're going to have meetings with your stakeholders. I'm telling you, when you do that and somebody says, well, and when someone comes on new, you can show them, hey, these are our rules of engagement for meetings. Is there anything you would like to recommend? So now you want to get them involved in this process. All right, two bonuses for you, I believe I have for you. My first bonus is promote a one voice rule during critical discussions. Man, if I could tell you how many times I've seen people trying to either out talk or over talk, which I believe are the same thing with stakeholders, is you get to a point where you're like, you know what, I'm going to end this meeting because there's no value here for anyone on this call. If you guys are going to continue to over talk each other, if you're going to continue not open the floor up for people to ask questions, and you're just going to go at, then hey, why don't you guys go have a separate call? But we're here to get the job done. We're here to execute. So having one voice when it comes to discussing the critical item, I would recommend assigning someone or whoever has the critical item, allowing them to talk, and then the team can provide feedback, but it's a one by one situation. All right, the last and final bonus is implement focus Mondays, what I call focus Mondays. That means, hey, no meetings on Monday, none. And the reason why you want to do that, or I recommend to do that, and sometimes you do have to have meetings, but if you could help it, you want your team, you want your stakeholders to have the ability to get the job done. If they're jumping from meeting to meeting, and then on top of the meeting you're going to have on there, and of course, meetings are very important. But again, I reinstate this of saying that just saying, hey, we're not going to meet on Mondays, or sometimes I even seen it with people like, hey, don't schedule a meeting for me on Friday. Like, oh, okay, is there a reason? It's like, no, that's my time where I can really focus on getting, all of the administrative stuff done. I can focus on actually getting the tasks done. So that's all I needed to hear. So again, family, make sure that, or ensure, I should say, that pick a day that you can tell based off of the task and the stakeholders that you say, hey, guys, I want to let you know that I want to implement a focus day. So you guys tell me what day works well for you, because I want to be able to have you guys have the opportunity to work on whatever you need to work on. Here's some closing remarks for you, family. You have to understand the value and the importance of a meeting. It is truly there to make a decision. It is truly there to understand the status of how the project is performing. You also want to be able to understand, is there anything that is preventing anyone on the team from completing their task? And finally, we're there for that meeting to understand any new or future problems we need to address. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, family. I'm so proud and so grateful and thankful. 200 episodes in. I got more to come. 200 episodes within 11 months. That's just amazing to me. So I'm grateful, so grateful to you guys who've locked in with me and continue to watch these videos. We're just going to keep working, family, and hopefully we can get more people on and they can watch. So share this with your friends, family, if they're looking to get into this field that I love, that I hope you fall in love with, called project management. Until next time, I'm